Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have liftoff.
On today's episode, I'm joined by one of the most pioneering jewellery designers of our time, Marisa Hordern. After turning a kitchen table passion project into a global brand almost 2 decades ago, she has redefined the industry with Missoma. So let's find out why she's a lady who launched. Right, before we get into it, if you like this episode, which I know you're going to, please don't forget to like and subscribe and to share it to your group chat. Well, I'm so excited to sit and talk to you. What I have enjoyed about this podcast so much, which sounds really self-indulgent, but it's to just sit down with women that I have admired for a long time, been a fan of, either a fan of their brand and have been really part of my life for a long time, and to get and sort of pick your brains about it is so brilliant. So I'm so pleased that we could make this work, because you know I'm a fan.
I know, and that's what we loved about this. We were like, Rochelle really loves us. It's so authentic.
Love it.
You've been such a supporter, and we're always so grateful. And as I said to you when I walked in, we had a fight in the office over who was going to come with me, because they're all such big fans of you, the podcast, and yeah, Lulu won, but there are some very jealous people back in the office.
That is so kind. That is so kind. Do you know what? It's so interesting, because I sort of have connected with you because of the brand, and often nowadays we're really seeing that happens kind of in reverse, like the founder-led content, the founder-led brands. You connect with the founder and then you're sort of bought in. So for me, it's really happened in reverse. So I can't wait to know everything about you, the lady that's in charge of the brand that I love, and is leading the way. I always start these conversations in the same way, because I just find, and this has really been an accident since launching the podcast, but we've really found along the way that actually those early years are so formative. And I found that, I suppose, in myself as a founder too, our upbringing really sort of has an impact on us. And then I suppose the way that we then found a brand and the way that we then continue to lead. So tell me a little bit about early life for you and how that looked.
Early life pre-Missoma, or the early days of Missoma?
Pre.
Okay,
I'm talking about
we're going
you,
back,
your
yeah.
upbringing, and
Okay,
what's the younger you like?
The younger me. Well, I've always been quite high energy. And everyone at school used to be like, where does she get her energy from? And the joke was the crystals, because I collected crystals from literally the age of about 5.
Wow.
So I had crystals all over my room, like, little pebbles, like raw crystals, like eggs, everything. And every weekend my dad would be putting up a new shelf to add more to my crystal collection. And so that was always the joke at school. And I remember once, actually, when I was away at university, so much later, my uncle came to stay, and he slept in my room while I was away. And the next day my mother was like, how did you sleep? Peter. And he was like, terribly, really terribly. She's like, why? Was the bed uncomfortable? Was it too hot? And he's a Buddhist, so he really feels these things. And he goes, no. Far too much energy in that room. And it is true in some ways, because now I wear a lot more grounding crystals, like tiger's eye. I just saw your crystal out there.
Oh, yep.
I mean, I'm really now much more into grounding crystals, which are the more kind of earthy tones. Whereas when I was younger, it was all about the color, and they were much more high energy. So the chrysoprase used to be one of my favorites. And even now, I think that's what led me to jewellery, my love of gemstones.
Yeah.
And even now I love working with labradorite, with malachite. And
You see, it's so interesting, isn't it? Like you say, that sort of became your thing. And then as you've evolved.
It was a hobby with my mum, actually, because we used to go to like vintage fairs and markets and down Portobello Road. And so while she was kind of off antiquing, which I did like as well, I would always be drawn to these little like crystal sort of, sellers. And I remember the first time I bought like a little set, and I think it was like £5 or something, and I got him down to £3. And when I kind of haggled him down, so even then I was kind of, a haggler. Apparently my mum says I kind of hugged him and went, oh, I love you. I mean, I was really young, maybe 6 or 7, because I felt so proud of myself that I'd haggled it down, but I got this beautiful little set.
And you got what you were excited about.
So, but it was a real hobby with my mum, and even later, it kind of started around the kitchen table as a hobby with my mum, beading like gemstone necklaces. We actually started with vintage sort of belts. So they were vintage centerpieces that we would collect,
Right.
like 1920s, 30s, 40s.
Right.
It's beautiful. Still have some of them. But then with beaded, all the beading around it. And they were amazing, but they were one-offs, right? So you couldn't really scale it. But I would take them in a roll to all these different shops, first in my area, then across like the whole of London, driving, trying to sell them.
I mean, I just love it. I love it. And you can see when you're speaking about it just how your face lights up, which I just love. How if we're going back to like younger you, how did school look? Because you've obviously got this really creative outlet that is coming in the form of crystals and beading and everything else in between. But how was your time at school?
So no one's ever asked me that. I love that. I was always really good at school. I always said I have a juxtaposition in my character. So I have the left side and the right side of my brain.
Right.
But what happened is that I actually feel like I don't excel in anything. So I feel like I'm a bit of an all-rounder, but there's no one thing that I was like,
interesting.
oh my God, I'm amazing at maths. I'm going to go and, I don't know, study maths, study economics, go into business. And actually, I think it makes it harder to then find what you really, truly love and what you're really meant to do.
Yes.
And I remember not knowing like what GCSEs to choose, not knowing what A-levels to choose, not knowing what to do at university. And then after university, the biggest one was, what am I going to do for a career? I had no idea. I studied history at university. I mean, I laugh now and I'm like, it's the sort of, history of kind of bullshitting, because at the end of the day, you're making up, you're learning the different facts, and then you have to decide what your opinion is on it. So you're arguing different points of view. I suppose a bit like politics.
Yes.
But yeah, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And even on the creative side, I didn't excel that much. Like I was good at art, I was good at maths, I was good at science. And and I was a bit of a nerd, but I was also a party girl. So I've always had this juxtaposition.
Yeah. And it's hard, isn't it? And it's like a tricky, it's interesting to you say that, because if you kind of aren't leaning towards one sort of avenue,
you don't know where to start.
Like, where do you start? And I was watching something the other day, and I can't remember who it was speaking, but they were saying, how do you know what your calling is? Like, you hear people say that, I knew that was for me, and I've always been great at that. And he put it in such an interesting way. And he said, look, some people are great at math, but they don't necessarily want to be an accountant. It doesn't necessarily excite them. But sometimes actually it's easier to find your calling than you think. And actually it's the thing that comes easy to you that's difficult to most.
Yeah.
And I thought that's actually so interesting, because we often find, where is that and where is that base? But it's quite a good way to simplify it.
I absolutely agree, Rochelle. And I think that I didn't know it then, but with hindsight, I can now look back and go, I think I was born to run my own business because I'm an all-rounder, and because I love learning. I love learning all the different areas of the business. I love constantly pushing myself, challenging myself, expanding that knowledge. And I don't excel in any one area. So I was never going to be just a designer, but I was also never going to be, just a lawyer. I love seeing all the kind of 360 dimensional kind of everything involved, even the legal. I used to read all the legal contracts myself, do the HMRC returns, upload every product to the website myself, sit with the photographer editing every image, not just the design. And I think that's what maybe an entrepreneur is, someone who loves to be open, curious, and be involved in all aspects.
And how rewarding that is. Because I think everything you've just described to some could sound like overwhelm
or
and
control
actually,
freak.
but I relate, so it takes one to know one. But the fact that excites you and that you feel the reward from it, and listen, at times of course it's overwhelming, but I think that's also how the enjoyment that you get and the satisfaction that you get from completing those tasks versus like how snowed under that might feel.
And also later on, as we've grown a team, it's building a team, building a company culture, being so proud of that company culture. Like, that's probably the bit that surprised me the most. And I know we've actually fast forwarded way too much here, but I do go off at tangents. I think that it ended up being more about the people than even the product. Like, you go into it to design a tangible product, to create something that I am so proud of. But actually, I'm equally as proud of the team and sort of, their accomplishments and seeing that, I don't know, the buzz, the passion, the drive, the energy that they have that I know is instilled because of, our vision, our mission, our kind of, I consider myself, and I always say this, the chief cheerleading officer, because that's my job. My job is to come and help make sure that we are all not only like aligned and working towards the same goals, but, as passionate as we can be and doing things the way and showing up in the way that, we can all be really proud of.
It's so incredible. And you're right, chief cheerleader is probably the best way to put it. What was your first job? So when you left
I was
school,
just about to go back to that thinking I totally flew ahead.
No, I love it. And this is how it goes. This is how it goes.
So my first job out of uni was at Richemont, which is basically a luxury goods holding company, a bit like LVMH. And they owned Cartier was their biggest brand at the time, but they owned, a lot of Swiss watch brands, IWC, A. Lange & Söhne, Montblanc, Chloe. Later on, they bought Net-a-Porter, but that was after I'd left.
Right.
Who else did they own? Van Cleef & Arpels, did I say that? So they did have some really good jewelry brands, but more it was that I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I thought, okay, I'm going to work on the business side of a creative industry. And I thought, therefore, I'll be exposed to the creative side and the business side. But I was very mistaken. And the thing is, when you go into a big corporate, you are so siloed and the departments are so separate and no one kind of really speaks to each other. And even now I hear about, other companies where you'd think now people had learned, but they're still working very siloed. So,
which always interests me. Because you kind of, and even when we have it here where we'll deal with big corporate firms and you're kind of like, does nobody talk internally?
Nobody.
It's so interesting.
And that's where efficiencies really start to, fall off a cliff. And so first of all, I didn't really know what I was doing. Technically, it was corporate media strategy. Really, it was kind of aggregated group volume and media buying. Really didn't understand that well. Was just behind a spreadsheet the whole time. Didn't even know how to work a spreadsheet when I first turned up. I mean, those were the days when we weren't taught it at school. Yeah. We are talking a long time ago because, Missoma is 18 years old. So therefore, this was 25 years ago. I wasn't creatively challenged. I wasn't seeing anything creative. I just felt like this can't be my life forever, just behind a desk. In this very corporate environment, I didn't feel challenged. And so on the side, I was beading still with my mum as a side hustle before the word side hustle even kind of came about. And it was still this passion. I was still going and taking our little wares to little shops. And I started to get it in a few magazines. And they were kind of beaded earrings in that kind of boho time of when Sienna Miller first evolved onto the scene. And
oh, gosh, do you remember that moment?
I know, right?
What a time for dressing.
I know. And it was sort of Sienna Miller and Julian MacDonald and Matthew Williamson. That was the kind of era. And you couldn't find jewelry at that point, which was fun, fashion forward, colourful. We were doing a lot of gemstones at that time. Really great quality, but that you could afford. It was either cheap tack or it was really, really expensive.
There was
jewelry.
there was no sort of mid-luxury at that point.
No, it seems crazy to say that right now because now we have it everywhere, which is wonderful. But
that might have been because someone might have been trailblazing over there.
There were only a few of us. I would say we, in our category, just jewelry, and obviously there's mid-luxury in many other categories now as well due to many different brands. But if we just talk about demi-fine jewelry, which again didn't even have that name then, there were probably 3 of us at that time. One doesn't exist anymore. And we spent about 7 years, I would say, I call them 7 years in the wilderness, where I think I felt like I was trying to educate the customer on the difference between the cheap quality and what we were doing and why that price point was a little bit higher. And also the country was actually predominantly a silver country at that point and we were doing gold. I know people forget that as well. Yeah. Now we're sort of trying to go back to silver. I'm like, don't worry, it'll take a few years. I've been here before. But so it was predominantly silver, trying to persuade people to go into gold. It took a long time, because I always say it takes 6 months to make a bestseller, but it takes about 2 years for things to start to filter through to, a commercial kind of scalable point. And so, it was a hard graft. Those years, we were barely scraping, by, barely making, breaking even. We were in all the magazines. We were, getting a lot of excitement. People loved the pieces. We were in a lot of department stores. So at the beginning, it was, wholesalers. So Harrods, Harvey Nichols, Selfridges, but not really the volumes that you needed, because a lot of it, what I was doing at that point was a little bit more statement.
Yeah.
And
that's all great, but it's quite tough on the cash flow at that point because,
Yeah.
we know how it looks when it goes to retail, the margins and everything moves around.
Yeah.
So and I've sat with founders on this podcast where, Sunday Riley was one of them, and she was in Bloomingdale's and the big stores, but she wasn't earning any money.
Yeah.
And was struggling to pay for her own groceries, but everyone thought she'd smashed it on the
Yeah.
outside. It's still
totally. It's
at
smoke and
that
mirrors.
point in your infancy, it is smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of, you need that opportunity because you want, especially particularly when you're trying to get that mid-luxury point across, that you've got that premium feel, but you're a different price point to the kind of high-end luxury, but you're above that, cheaper brand. Like, it's a really hard thing to play out at first.
Yes, and you have to find things on the side to bring in the money. I mean, I had to do a lot of other jobs on the side to fund Missoma, to keep it going. So I was doing private label for some big department stores,
Right.
Sort of household names, where I would design, manufacture, and do all the delivery and distribution. I even did a bit of QVC and Shop NBC, not in the UK because I didn't want to kind of it to affect the brand, but I did QVC Germany. I flew to Minneapolis doing Shop NBC. So I had to do a lot of other things to bring in the money that
prop up that
funded
cash flow.
Missoma. Yeah.
Which is so interesting. I don't think enough people talk about that. Let's sort of, I suppose, jump back a little bit, because you leave uni, you start this job, it's not for you, you're way too creative to be sat where you are, and you kind of think you're going into something that it wasn't, what ended up transpiring. So what starts as a side hustle, which now we have that terminology,
Yeah.
At what point do you say, okay, me and my mum are doing this, and this is a side hustle, but this feels to me that this has more legs than just being so? At what point do you put your focus on Missoma, and how do you decide whether you're going to raise money to do so? And how does that look, that real sort of starting journey?
I mean, everyone says it's a leap of faith, right? And there's no getting around that. That is the truth. But I also think from my point of view, I was so miserable in my job that it helped make that decision easy.
Right.
And I remember it was just I had a very difficult boss, and I spent most of my time crying in the loo.
Oh.
And
Which is also, which will really is pivotal in then how you run a company.
oh my God, I love that you said that.
Like it's a lesson, and
That was
it
my
was like
biggest takeaway.
shit for you at the time.
It was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
So my mum said to me, it is your baptism of fire. This is your baptism of fire.
Yeah.
And you've learnt so much from it, because what I took away from it is I will never treat anyone the way that they treated me.
And it would break your heart to think anyone that is working alongside you would spend their lunchtime crying in the loo.
Exactly.
That will never happen.
So there is this thing now where one of our sort of values is no big egos. And we all muck in. We're all kind of anyone can ask any question. Anyone can have a great idea. Like, we have great, even creative ideas from, like, I don't know, finance, merch, this, that, and the other. We all are open and curious to each other. But yeah, I really lived by that to this day. And I do think that was a real key takeaway and learning for me. And I still believe in that baptism of fire. And I also think for younger people, just going back to that whole, what do you do when you leave university and you don't know what your life path is yet? I would say go to a smaller company, maybe not one that's so small that, you don't know if they're going to have enough cash to prop up the business, but a medium size where you see more departments and you're open to learning from that cross-departmental kind of collaboration, because then you see everything and you then hone in on what you really want to learn more about and enjoy.
And you could be a sponge to it all, and then you can figure out early on. I wish I had the opportunity to really realise what my strengths and weaknesses are, in that environment, because I am one of those people that want to soak up everything, but to be able to borrow a little bit of everything and everyone, that's the dream, isn't it? So you take a risk. I mean, like you say, it's kind of, your mind is made up by the fact that you have a difficult boss and your time wasn't that enjoyable.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think it's when you realize quality of life.
Yes.
There is no point going to work every single day if you are that miserable and you hate it. And so, and that's another thing, you know, we want to make sure we might not have the most beautiful offices, this, that, and the other, but we have a great working environment. And, you know, that social culture is really important in terms of all the social activities we do with the team. But yes, so I decided, right, quality of life, it's not worth me staying doing this, being miserable. I'm going to take this leap of faith. I'll try it out for a bit. And if not, I'll go and get another job. But, I mean, I'm very driven. I have a lot of willpower. And it really taught me to challenge myself and to get out of my comfort zone. Because at that point, I'd never really traveled by myself. I'd never really, gotten out of my safety net. And so what I did was, by that point, we started to get jewellery students as basically freelancers beading up for us. So I would deliver these bags full of beads, calipers, cutters, with like instructions on a piece of paper, handwritten, sort of a prototype for them to copy. And so they'd be earning money while they were at jewellery school. Wow. And I'd be driving around with these little baggies and literally meeting them, I don't know, outside their, uni halls of residence or in a parking lot. It looked slightly dodgy.
Slightly suspicious.
I mean, slightly suspicious. I mean, basically there I was handing over little baggies of like crystals. So innocent, but looked so dodgy. But once we got to a point where we realized, okay, no, we need to scale up further because, we were selling to quite a few independent shops. Then I started to I was doing sort of desk visits to editors.
Right.
Again, just Googling, finding them, emailing, calling.
Putting yourself out there.
Sorry?
Putting yourself out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah? Mm-hmm.
So doing desk visits, taking again my little role, getting it all out. I mean, even yesterday we had a press day and there were some there who go, I remember 20 years ago when you came to my desk when I was at InStyle, and it was so funny just to see that, they all remember that hard graft of what we all did. And then I started doing trade shows.
Right.
So, and that was the traditional way of doing things. Don't need to do it anymore, but this was back in the day.
Yeah, of course.
And so I started doing trade shows, applying for like London Fashion Week, Milan, Paris. But then I was also, later on I started doing jewellery trade shows as well. But as I started getting more stores, so I started getting the department stores. I did every visit, meeting as well myself, sales meeting to a Liberties or a Selfridges. I mean, I'd feel physically sick beforehand because I was actually a very anxious person.
Right.
And I always find sometimes the seemingly most confident people are actually quite shy on the inside, or not shy, anxious.
Yeah.
So, it taught me to push through that. I think, starting your own company teaches you to push through so many barriers.
It really does. It's almost like, I think of like, when people talk about Beyonce and that she's this really homely girl and then she goes into that Sasha Fierce moment.
Yeah, the alter ego.
You kind of, in those situations where and we've all had it before a big meeting where we feel like we're going to vom before we go in, but it sort of takes some work to get to a place where you know how to turn that on. But I think because you have to, and this is your baby, and it sort of is a bit of an out of body experience sometimes, isn't it?
And practice. Now, whenever, you're talking to, the younger generation, they're going through it. You're like, don't worry, it gets easier. You've just got to keep trying and you'll improve each time. Went into some of the stores. I think that was a really great moment. The first time I sort of saw it in, I think, Harrods on the ground floor on display. I feel like that was one of my kind of proudest moments. And then I realized, okay, we need to scale this up and start getting manufacturers.
Wow.
That was a whole nother story.
And so this is a whole nother story because this is where everything dials up a little bit. This is also where it's hard to be the control freak that we know and love, and you're not necessarily meeting a couple of uni students and you're telling them exactly how you want it. This is, when the volume goes up, you can't be across every single piece. I mean, to a degree you can, of course, but it does change, doesn't it?
It definitely does. I mean, at that point, I think it was still only me and one other person. So when I was going and finding the factories, now we can talk later about how now there's a team and there's a product development team, and we take it in turns on who's going to the factories and which factories they're going to visit, because we do obviously go directly and we keep those relationships. But at the beginning, I went out first to kind of trade shows like in Hong Kong and Bangkok to find some manufacturers. Then I went direct to them because I wanted to check out the factories firsthand, which I still believe is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Your relationship with your factories and your suppliers, it's not a supplier relationship, it's a partnership. And those relationships are so key because you have to help each other through the good and bad times, right? So when we need something urgently, or when we need extended payment terms, also when they're running late on something, or I don't know, some machinery or blackout has happened and they need to, they're behind a few days. So I went round, Jaipur, Bangkok, Hong Kong, even Shenzhen, and I tried over 20 different factories. Wow. Before I found, at that time, it was 2 that we worked with, both in actually Jaipur, because in those days we were much more gemstone driven, and Jaipur is very much a gemstone kind of center of the world where it all comes, is imported in the rough to be cut, and we were doing a lot of hand cuts. And I still have relationships with all my manufacturers today, almost all. And we've added, obviously, a few more since. So we've now moved into Thailand and manufacturing in Thailand where, it's easier to get the pearls, or they're more ahead in certain, other areas because everyone has their, their pros and the cons, just like, we all do.
Yeah.
So now we have the 2, Thailand and Jaipur, but I still have those personal relationships with all of them, and it's so important.
And I suppose it's kind of a 360 approach, right? And it goes back to what you were saying before, working at a corporate firm, no one's necessarily got a personal relationship with each other in the way that you'd assume. And that kind of sort of translates across the full picture, really, doesn't it? You need those relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships are such an important part of any great business.
Absolutely. And I think that also, especially with certain suppliers, if you don't treat them in the right way, it's not a real partnership. And that's when they'll have your back and you'll have their back. And that goes back to that same thing of treating people the way that you want to be treated. I firmly believe in that.
And at that point, how did that look? Because like I said, this has started off as a side hustle. You leave a job to make this work. Did you have to take on investment when you decided, okay, we're ready for scaling up and moving into that kind of manufacturer position?
Yeah, I took on, at the beginning, 100,000 of investment. Gave away way too much equity because I was really naive. And that 100,000 took us to 12 million in sales.
Wow.
Yeah. So we made that go far.
Goodness me. I mean,
hasn't been quite as easy since, but
that is something to be so incredibly proud of.
We were really, really, I don't think we even thought about it at the time. But then when we sort of hit 12 million and realized that wasn't the norm and that a lot of other people had taken on a lot more investment. Because I think when I started it, I didn't have a business plan. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no training in jewellery, by the way. Forgot to mention that. I remember we used to hand draw some of the designs on graph paper, and we'd be trying to decide, my mum and I, between 1.3 or 1.4 millimeters, or 0.8 and 0.7. So minimal. How do you make decisions?
It's all self-taught.
So it's trial and error. And I do think it took us longer because we were teaching ourselves. So I do think the first couple of years we were still experimenting with the metal, the finish. So whether it's 14 carat, is it 18 carat, is it 9 carat, is it, 2 microns, is it 3 microns, is it flash plated? We even tried, solid 14 carat. So trying to then find the right price point. And then trying to find what is right for the customer. What are they, at the end of the day, it's what are they wanting to pay? What's their upper limit? What's your sweet spot? Design was never the problem. It's always just honing that price point and the quality.
Right.
So, but also it's persuading people to take you on. There you are, traveling alone by yourself down these back streets in industrial zones where, it was before Google Maps. It was before Find My Phone.
Yeah, gosh.
There were times even where, I don't know, I had to get on the back of a motorbike, someone who came to collect me because I phoned and said I can't find it. I'd spent half an hour finding it. It was getting dark. And we're careering around like monkeys and cows. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, no one knows, they know I'm in Jaipur, but no one knows where I am.
Yeah.
And I don't
Isn't
actually
it
know
funny
this
when you
guy.
actually take yourself out of the situation that you're actually willing to do anything for your business, and you're like, no, I'm going to get this right pearl because I've heard this is where I should be.
Exactly. And no, I was trying to, compare every single price per carat, trying to compare every single quote. But again, a lot of it is about communication. So I remember I wrote to one of the factories who never replied to me, and he said he would send me a sample. And I wrote to him after saying, communication is everything. And if you're not going to communicate with me, if you don't want to make the sample because we're too small, that's fine. But please let us know.
We'll move on. Yeah.
And he told me, in fact, about 3 years ago, because he's actually still one of my favourites and still our supplier, our partner, our manufacturer. And he goes, I kept that email as an example to myself to never underestimate anyone, to never write anyone off. Because he didn't reply then, and we didn't work with him then. But a few years later, I don't know whether he wrote to me or I went back to him, and we started working together.
Wow.
And he had basically written to me, I think he'd written to me saying, we've seen how Missoma has grown, we've seen the success of Missoma, we really love what you're doing and we'd love to work with you. But he'd written me off at the beginning, which was, I understand, because if you've got these people just coming, knocking on your literally factory door, which is what I was doing, and you don't really have any sales channels, you've got no money, you're trying to order, you're going, what's your minimum quantity? And you're trying to order ones and twos of things. And you're having to make the samples, this and that. You are taking a risk. So you also have to sell yourself. You're going out there and you are selling yourself.
It's almost like you say, it's almost in a different way, but asking for investment again, because you're asking for that time investment. Like you say, if you want someone to really take you seriously and those MOQs, and you're asking for like 10 pieces of this, or like you say, to put that time in, it is asking for them to invest in you too. What I love about you is, in that instance, a lot of people would have let sort of pride and ego get in the way, and then once he'd email again years later and said, actually, I'd love to work with you, I've seen how you've grown, how incredible you're doing, lots of people would have said, you didn't want me. But
he is one of my favourites. I trust him actually more than many people, and he's got a really straight. I always believe in straight talkers. And I read people's energies. Actually, no, that's a lie. My sister would say I'm really bad at reading people's characters. I've made a lot of mistake on that. But I do read energies.
And I'm with you there. I'm good at reading energies.
Maybe I'm not good at reading capabilities, but I'm good at reading energies.
Yeah. I kind of align with you there.
And it's when you don't listen to your gut.
Yes.
Because I know so many founders have come on and told you, on this podcast, it's about listening to your gut.
Because we've all made the mistakes. And I think for me, in terms of like people and trusting in people, there were obviously red flags a long time ago. And I think when you want it wholeheartedly to be the opposite of what you deep down know that it is.
It's like a relationship.
It is. You kind of fight for it in a different way. And actually... And then there's ego in there too, because you don't want to be wrong, because someone else might have said, I'm not sure about this. And you're like, no, absolutely trying to trust them wholeheartedly. And actually.
Exactly. And I think that's where team is so important, because when you do have the people whose opinions you trust and you listen to their concerns, or if they sort of see any red flags, that really helps, because you've got a sounding board and you can ask them and know you're going to get the straight answer. But when you don't have that team to ask, it's listening to that like slight discomfort in the belly of your stomach. And I often have not done that, because again, like you said, try to push through. And I think it's learning to really empower yourself to listen to that. And I think that sometimes...
Do you think it's age though, and experience? Because I think when I look back, I've done it, well actually I think even not too long ago I've been in that situation. But I think it is just, I feel like each time I'm getting a little better at it.
I wish I was, and I think I am, but I also just think I need other people to give me... I think I try and see the best in people, and I think I try and read energies, and I don't think I look at their capabilities. I listen to the talk. So I need people who know the right type of questions to ask, the right kind of way of delving a bit deeper. And I now have that. I now am surrounded by people who I really trust, but I wasn't for a long time, and I made a lot of mistakes on trusting the right people, and also people who talk a big game.
Yes.
And use really big words, sound really eloquent.
Oh my gosh,
and
I feel like
kind
we've
of
lived the same
intimidate
life.
you. And actually I've realised they're just big talkers.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of a doer.
Yes.
So you can be a great talker, but actually not be that good at your actual job, or what you say you do or can do. And I think that's been a real sort of lesson.
And don't
for me.
blindside me with everything in abbreviations. And
Oh,
like,
the acronyms.
yeah,
Oh, my goodness.
I'm so over acronyms.
Yeah, I'm not trained. I don't know what BTA is, balance to achieve.
Like all of that is nonsense. And don't make me feel like because I don't understand them that you're doing a job that isn't actually happening. So when you take on that investment, like you say, I mean, you make the impossible possible. You turn 100,000 into 12 million, which is no mean feat. What you and your mum are doing this, then it's you and one other. When you're in a position to hire, what was the first role that you took on? What was the thing that you thought, okay, I'm a control freak, this is my baby, but this actually isn't my strength and this is where I could do with the help?
Well, I think that's where my first mistake was. I didn't hire someone who complemented my skill set. Now, don't get me wrong, I hired a brilliant person, sales and marketing, but actually I'm okay at sales and marketing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that they weren't great.
Yeah.
I always say, go into business with a partner if you can, or the first thing you should do is hire someone with your who complements your skill set.
Yes.
So what I should have done is gone straight into operations and kind of someone who could do ops, merch, and finance, all the areas that I don't really want to do. Yeah. So and instead I did sales and marketing, and I think for a long time we were too creative. We were like the people in the business were too. There was too many creatives. There was too much.
That's interesting.
Yes, because I'm just such a creative, and I think I
and that excites
all these
you.
Creative kind of yes, energies, people, talents, and it was all brand, marketing, sort of. Even sales is quite creative, right? As opposed to building the foundations and getting the processes done right.
Yeah.
And there was one person who came in, they were like, have you ever heard of the Myers-Briggs test? And basically it tests what type of personality you are. And they were like, there are far too many yellows in this company, and yellows are the creatives.
Yes.
And we didn't have enough of the blues, who were the process-driven, analytical, operational. So
it makes perfect sense though, because you get pulled in a certain direction, and when you're so passionate about something and that's your kind of what makes you tick, you're drawn to like-minded people. And I think, like you say, the foundations of the business are so important, and that is such good advice, because often when somebody is in a position to make that first hire, you look to somebody that you feel like you could really buzz off in that same way, but actually they should complement what you're brilliant at.
I mean, don't be wrong, I did need a salesperson because, well, I couldn't do it all alone. We were going to all these different markets, doing all these different trade shows. And at the end of the day, you need to bring the money, and sales brings in the money.
Yeah.
But probably the one after that should have then been, finance and ops.
Obviously, the team has grown somewhat, I'd imagine, or maybe not, since you started all those years ago. So what does the team look like now? How many of you are there?
Well, now there's about 67 in head office. Wow. There's about 18 in our warehouse, because we have our own warehouse. I was telling you earlier, so do you. I love having our own warehouse. I'm going there afterwards. And then we also have retail. So with the 5 stores, we have, I think, 45 in retail. So I think, God, my maths is not that good. I think it's about 120. I can't do the maths.
I mean,
see, not my forte.
What we should say is it's scaled somewhat since it was you and your mum at the kitchen table.
Yes, it has. But also, I'm really proud that it's about, I think, 89% women in senior leadership roles. So, that's either senior managers, heads of,
incredible
growth directors. So, really proud of that.
So you launched back in 2007.
Yeah, can you believe it?
I mean, that really surprised me. When I was reading all your kind of info this morning, that actually really surprised me because, well, first of all, I talk about moments like they were the other week. And my husband's like, Rochelle, that's 5 years ago. And I kind of, my sort of gauge on time isn't very true. But it feels, what I think is so interesting about the brand and the business that you've built is actually that it feels so relevant, but it has done consistently. And it surprised me that that's since 2007. In my mind, it should be like 2018 or 19.
I know.
So I think you have done that so incredibly well. Has it been a struggle for the business to stay as relevant as it is? Is that is that sort of happened organically and it's just become with creation and ideas, or has that been quite hard?
Good question, Rochelle. I don't think it did up until maybe a couple of years ago. But you're right, 2007, most people think we were like 2015. And that's, again, goes back to my 7 years in the wilderness, that people don't really understand it. I always say it takes 10 years to make an overnight success.
Agreed.
And people don't understand all those years of hard graft, sweat, blood, and
They're like,
tears.
she's done really well lately.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're like, yeah.
I think for me, relevancy comes when you find your sweet spot. And first of all, it has to be the customer. So it was like finding who she is, where is she, what's she interested in, how do we find
She's
her?
me. She is me. I am her.
Good. And then how do we talk to her and where do we reach her? And I think for us, an epiphany moment came after that wholesale bit, which I told you I was doing all the wholesale trade shows. I then had burnout at 30 and I just didn't know how I was going to carry on and scale it up so that we were really kind of to.
How did burnout look to you? Because it's such a like sort of personal, relative thing. How did you? 'Cause sometimes we can often say I had burnout after the fact, and like looking back at knowing that period of time was really difficult. How was you really aware in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I remember I couldn't leave my bed for like 3 days. I just sat in a dark room, curtains closed, just crying and crying and crying. And I just felt like I couldn't go on and I couldn't go on this way and something had to change. And I'd just been knocking my kind of head against a wall for so many years, feeling like I wasn't getting anywhere.
Right.
And I just think, as much as I'm the most positive person in the world, it just became too much. And I didn't feel like I knew how to move it forward. And I was just so exhausted. I was doing every trade show, setting them up, traveling. Like, I remember Basel's like 11 days long. There was JCK in Las Vegas. There was Vicenza 3 times a year. I mean, in Basel, I was sleeping on a student's floor on a roll-out futon next to like this cat litter that really stunk. I'm not a cat person, sorry to cat lovers out there. And it was just exhausting and I just didn't see a way forward where it was really going to scale up. So I went traveling. Well, it closed down the company. Sorry, I closed it down. I thought this is it for good. I thought this is it for good.
Because you just thought, I can't do this. I've been at this. I've been beating this drum and it's just not happening.
Yeah. And I closed it and I thought, I'm not coming back to this. And I went traveling for 4 months. And I went around South America, really just trying to re-find my energy, my passion, my drive, decide what I wanted to do with my life, what else was I going to do. And the irony of the whole thing was that I came back 4 months later and I said to my family, I was like, I want to go back and do it again. Wow. And they were like, are you crazy? You just told us, like, you basically were having a breakdown. You couldn't do it. Are you sure? Are we sure about this, Marisa? And they actually thought, this is a bad idea.
Yeah, and I suppose that's really kind of worrying for your loved ones.
And I was like, no, it's the only thing I want to do.
Wow.
I knew, I would regret it if I never went back to it. I knew it was something that, was my ultimate kind of passion and something I loved so much, but I fell out of love with it because of the way that I was doing it. And that was 2010, was it? I can't remember. And that's when I then went and got that 100,000 investment. Sorry, so we've sort of obviously gone back a bit.
Yes.
And that's when I decided, going back to the sweet spot, right, I'm quitting wholesale. I'm not doing all these trade shows. We're going to do an online shop. We're going to go direct to customers and we're going to market it ourselves. And it was this, people were like, no, you're never going to sell jewellery online. And I know it sounds silly now.
Of course it does,
in those days, there were no online jewellery shops. And also it was a day when if you did see a product, it was very much like Jewellery 101. You were selling a product, like one product, one bangle. But it was a product. It wasn't a lifestyle. And for me, jewellery is part of who you are. It's jewellery to live in.
Yes.
It's jewellery to wear every single day. And it's how you style it. And so we were trying to sell a lifestyle and how you styled it. And that's how my whole, I think, vision for the brand changed. I came back going, we're not just selling jewellery as a product to wholesalers. We are going to sell it direct to the customer and show them, inspire them how to wear it, but also how it can be the thing that gives them the confidence, the thing that's that final bit you put on and you feel like put together. And you know when you feel naked when you go out the house without your jewellery. And, you know, that was the beginning of our layered look and layering. And that was the beginning of, well, us going onto social media, finding influencers who in those days were bloggers, and it was all authentic relationships. It wasn't a pay-for-play arena in those days. It was the beginning of when they were sort of, you know, starting, and they were these new editors for consumers online. And it was actually really exciting because we just managed to harness it at the right time. And I think that sweet spot is when it all comes together. So you've got, you know, your product, your price point, your quality, tick. I spent years honing that. Then you start marketing it to the right people in the right way. And then it just started to build up. Like we already had a lot of word of mouth sort of success when I was doing like little sample sales and pop-ups and all that hard graft. But this is on a different level once you hit social media. And through those influencers, you know, how you have more reach. But I loved how authentic it was. And to this day, we still try to keep those authentic roots and we still believe in the relationships. So some of our partners are still ones we've worked with for 10 years, like Lucy Williams, 10-year partnership. And, you know, it was always based on, you know, shared values, her being able to embody that Missoma muse and how to wear it, but in that really affordable, attainable way. And it was in the days when it was still new to buy jewellery for yourself and celebrating your own wins.
Yes, you're so right. Because when did it become like a, you know, the old school, like if he buys you flowers, he means he's sorry, but chocolates mean I love you. And jewellery was definitely sort of seen as something that a male would buy a female. And at what point
it was either...
does a woman not buy her own jewellery or her own flowers, or, you know what you want? Just it's the kind of idea of that. But you're right, the dial really turned.
And it was a time where, oh my God, I'm making it sound like we lived in, you know...
In the olden days.
In the olden days. But it was a time where you only bought one piece.
Yes.
And it was a going out piece, or you waited for a birthday, Christmas, or you were bought... you know, it by a partner. So then suddenly we were emboldening women to celebrate their own little milestones. Got the job, got a promotion. Oh, payday. You know what? I deserve it. I worked hard.
Yeah.
And that felt really empowering to women. And then it was, you remember where you were when you bought the jewellery, what it was to celebrate, what you felt when you put it on. It's so personal and it's so meaningful. Just like when your friends, or, you know, we had all these friends clubbing together to buy, whether it was a 21st, a 30th, you know, even the 40th. And that's really meaningful and special.
Yeah. And it's that, it always comes, you know, with every brand, it comes back to that storytelling. And I think that's what, it's that feeling. And I think that really, really does come across. What do you think, and you touched on like burnout being, I suppose, a real pivotal moment for you, but equally for the business, because you really realised what you didn't want, what wasn't working, what was working. And we touch on this, and I kind of, when we speak about burnout, it feels like it's not something that we want to... I'm always aware of not glamorizing that. Like we don't want to get to that point where burnout is a thing. And I think it's such a female thing that we're taught we can do it all and we can spin every plate and we can, you know, we made it and we're grafters and it's fine. We'll be there whether we're pregnant or whether we're, you know, going through a miscarriage and we're showing up and we've made the meeting and we almost have become guilty of turning that feminine into masculine because we want to make it work. So I really like that you're saying that, look, I went through burnout and it was shit and I had to find myself and I closed the company but guess what? I learned from that and I don't ever want to be in that position again. But you can get your life back on track.
Totally.
Because I think it's a really inspirational, and you're so kind, you know, sharing that with us. But it is so kind of impactful to hear that you can kiss goodbye to something, but also it can feel right again and the tables can turn. I think it's a really, normally when somebody goes through something or kind of a a life-changing moment, you don't necessarily press go on the thing that made you feel so low. You start something new, or you kind of think, okay, this is where I'm going now. And I love, it's really brave to go back to something and, you know, tell your family I'm going to do that thing again. And I'm going to, that kind of really.
I think that's what an entrepreneur's journey is. When you look at starting your own business, you have setback after setback after setback, and it's all about learning how to get back up again, and then how you move forward. So it's not about the failure. The failure, my gosh, I'm still making mistakes every day.
Well, we call them lessons.
Lessons. It's fail fast and move on. As long as you take the learnings from it, which I don't always do either, but as long as you try to, you need to have that perseverance. And what I found is I had so many friends who were amazingly talented and you know, also had their own brands when we were doing all the trade shows, all these friends, and we'd travel together, etc., in all different categories. And a lot of them stopped, you know, over time and slowly kind of gave up their businesses and their brands for many different reasons, be it family, be it cash flow, be it, you know, it was too much. And I just felt like at one point I was the last one standing. And I truly believe it comes down to grit and perseverance. And I think over time I learned to compartmentalize. And I think that's been a really important life lesson for me, where I try and separate out the different elements, be it the different problems, you know, in work, or be it family from work, or be it any kind of minutiae, so that I don't take it all on. Because I think when I was taking it all on, it was getting overwhelming.
Yes.
I think the only danger is you can compartmentalize too much and then lose touch of, you know, what always really made you the emotional person you were. But I still think it's really good to try and compartmentalize.
Has there ever been a time that you, aside from the business, because we all know, like, when you are steering the ship, you're front and center, you're chief cheerleader, when you are trying to be all to the business, but also all to everybody, because you do have responsibility when you lead, and we know that, and you kind of want to lead by example. Was there ever a time in your personal life where you felt that you were going through something that was extremely tough for you, and it was really hard to stay upbeat and positive whilst being that chief cheerleader?
I remember once I was coming back from a kind of launch event, and I was with actually the same sales and marketing person who was, you know, one of my right-hand people for many, many years. And I just burst into tears in the car, which I never did at work. I've never brought my problems to work. And basically I then admitted to her that, you know, I was going through IVF and, you know, I was really struggling emotionally. It was beyond me. I couldn't keep the emotions in. And I think what happened was I ended up, you know, doing a lot of IVF over the years whilst trying for a baby. And, you know, the first time was okay. The second time was okay. By the third, fourth, etc., it was all just too many hormones. Just I was a bit of an emotional kind of hormonal wreck. And what was really nice was that I kind of told people, and I told the team. And I think there is this honesty in our team culture. And as a result, everyone was just really supportive. And that, I think, also maybe is because I was very much in a female, predominantly female environment. We're about 82% female.
I love that.
And, you know, now there are others who are kind of probably going through the same thing. Most of my team are of childbearing age. And there are so many different situations, you know, highs and lows for everyone. But I think we all support each other through it. And I think by keeping it that really honest and open environment, in a few weeks' time, actually, I've got Endometriosis UK coming to talk to the team to educate them on the symptoms and, you know, how to advocate for yourself and, you know, where to go for facts. So I'm trying to also take, you know, my personal learnings and, you know, bring it also to the team.
And I think you feeling safe enough to have those conversations with your team, as in you feeling that to say, you know, I'm having a terrible time and this has been going on, that also then it filters down, right? So you're making that safe space for everybody. And I think it's such a powerful conversation to have, you know, alluding back to what we were just touching on, where we're sort of taught to just go through everything, show up to work and do our thing. And you know, raise a family like we don't have a job, and be great at the job like you don't have a family, or you're not, you know, really pining for that and that's something you're wanting. I think it's so powerful as women that we have these conversations, you know, on podcasts like this,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
in your workspace, because actually there is life to be lived outside of what we're doing. And I
Yeah.
think it's really is protecting that and knowing that that is also important, and you're allowed to have journeys that aren't necessarily for me at My Little Coco or for you at Missoma. Like we're allowed to have a life outside that too.
Totally. And I think that, you know, now I you know, bring in my son sometimes to work, and, you know, we're so blessed that we now have our little son, Maxie. But I
So
never gave
incredible.
up. But I want to make sure now that whether it's my team or other women, they kind of educate themselves on what they need to know about fertility rates so that they don't leave it too late. You know, we're
Yes.
all kind of getting married later. We're having children later. So I think you just really need to know to freeze your eggs before 35 and to find out your, you know, fertility levels, because then you can leave it as long as you want, because you can have a child at any age,
Yeah.
as long as there are no major issues, which you've had checked out at any age, and not worry about my career, my this, my
You're
that.
so
It's
right.
the best insurance
Yeah.
policy in the world.
And you're so right, because I think we lead our life thinking like, I'll do this when. And I think a lot of us, like I felt pregnant very young, and I was pregnant with my eldest at 23. So I was very fortunate, and I count myself as very blessed, and I'm aware like what a privilege that is and was. I think that I could have easily not been in that situation. And I've always been such a career girl, and I was lucky that I met my husband when I did, and that was kind of where our life took us. But it easily might not have been. And I just think, particularly when I was younger, it was just, oh my God, I've got this great career and I'm doing that. And I'll have kids when I'm ready. And we sort of see it as an option that we're all going to get, and
Yes.
a luxury that we're just going to live this life, and when we're ready we'll look to start a family. But you're so right, educating women and having that conversations, and you know, making a group chat aware of that, because it is
Yeah.
something that we feel like we've not got round to that yet, but we will when we're ready, or we will when we meet someone where
And it's not just fertility rates. I think it's just female health in general
Yeah.
as well. It's something I'm now really passionate about, and going to be starting to support well-being of women and Endometriosis UK, because even though I had so many friends who had endometriosis, I had no idea really what it was, the symptoms, and basically was undiagnosed for over 7 years. And it's 1 in 10 women not only have endometriosis, but some type of female health issue, be it polycystic ovaries.
and why do we not talk
Yeah.
about it enough? Like,
And-
it's so
But not
silly.
only are we not educated at school about it, which is something that
Yeah.
we really want to go to sort of
Yeah.
advocate for, because you need to teach girls the symptoms, because it's so often that you kind of, you know, let's say have a really heavy period and your mother goes, oh, yes, I had that too, it's normal. And if they ask then other questions like, are you always tired? Do you have backache? X, Y, Z, you start to put it together. Whereas I was like, oh, I'm exhausted because I'm exhausted from work. Oh,
Yeah.
my backache because I'm getting older. And, you know, it actually became crippling and then obviously became a long-term issue for me.
And as I said, as women, we often put up, because it's been a gradual build, and you're like, oh no, this is how I feel now. And this is now the me, where you could be having a real different quality of life
I
by,
helped.
you know, sort of looking after your health. And I think, like you say, we put things on the back burner because, like, you know, you're running a business or everything else in between.
But you're so right. Quality of life, it comes back to that.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
So now, yesterday I was speaking to someone, I'd been telling them about the symptoms and that they had been having. And I said, I think you have this. And she said she got checked out and now she's about to have the operation I had, the surgery.
Wow.
And just any time you can now pay it forward and make sure no one has to get to that point where then they're faced with potential infertility. I want to make sure that we kind of speak up and educate.
so brilliant.
And also
Well
educate
done.
nurses, because nurses aren't looking for the right symptoms and they're not asking the right questions. And so it needs to be on both sides, the medical and the education
Well
of young
done.
girls.
It's so brilliant. It's so brilliant. And it's so, I mean, incredible that you're sharing that with your team and, you know.
Well, it's the first time I've shared it out loud. I was nervous about talking about it, but it does feel good to be able to just tell people where to go. I mean, you can go and do a 60-second survey and then get a letter that helps you take it to the GP so that they take it seriously. Because really, I tell the team and friends of mine, etc., who are experiencing certain type of symptoms or problems, you've got to advocate for yourself.
Yes.
You need to push because sometimes they just don't listen.
Absolutely. And you know your body better than anybody. And
It's listening to your gut again. It's
it's
like in business.
We just need to, it's like listening to ourselves and trusting ourselves more and fighting for yourself if you think you just haven't got that answer yet. And that's just like across the board. Like women can detect anything.
Female intuition. Don't underestimate it.
Exactly that. I want to ask, before we start the rocket round, which is always my favourite part, I want to ask how Missoma looks now. How does the team look? What I know, the sort of culture that you are breeding, which is just so incredible, and it sounds like such a beautiful place to work. But what's the sort of size of the team? I just want to... It's been such a journey for you, and I hate that sounds so cliche, but for it to be a kitchen table thing with your mum and have scaled in the way that you have is so inspirational. What does your role look like now? Has it changed since the beginning?
Changed, yeah.
And what does Missoma look like now?
So it's definitely changed. I actually recently stood down as CEO, which was a big move and really scary, especially for a control freak.
I was going to say, I feel you.
We really planned it before I had my baby. And so it was really well planned. And I made my CFO CEO. So she basically had come and already been with us 5 years. Catherine, she is the kind of yin to my yang. She's my rock. She's my sounding board. She's a straight arrow. It's all about trust. And they kept on trying to get me to hire an external. I was like, but then you need to build that relationship, which might work or might not, but there's all these horror stories you do hear.
Yes.
And I always think if you can nurture homegrown talent, she was COO, before that CFO, before that, she worked in, many other different businesses from, I'm trying to think, Topshop, etc. So she has, much more experience than me. But she is process driven. She's considered. She's analytical. She's everything that I'm not. And so we complement each other. And it's the biggest advice I could give anyone. Make sure that, but she still gets me. She gets my energy, my creativity, my passion. We completely respect each other. And at first I was really scared. How do I, let go of all these different areas? I used to be involved in every single area, from the e-com roadmap to the digital marketing kind of channels, budget to, the merchandising buy to the ops. But actually, it's been a weight off my shoulders because all those areas that I don't naturally excel in, I'm just really curious about, still get to read about, I still get to learn about. I can ask any question I want. There's no one stopping me from, but I don't need to be in the weeds.
Yes.
So now it has allowed me to focus so much more on all the customer-facing areas of the business. So first of all, we've been going into retail, so bricks and mortar, which has been so exciting. Yeah. And I think one of my dreams, come true. And then I'm learning about a whole new kind of category, a whole new channel, if you like, and it's so new to us, and we're making mistakes, and we're constantly evolving it and learning, and that's fine. But designing the stores and then learning how the stores work, the footprint, getting that customer feedback like firsthand, is just amazing. And then also, I'm still working on all the brand, any brand element that the customer sees. We have our own content studio, which is another thing I'm really proud of. So we create every bit of content ourselves. So it's not just the product images. It could be the still lifes. It could be the campaigns, all done in-house by our own photographer. We have our own senior producer, junior producer, photographer, retoucher, social, Lulu over there. Lulu, who's homegrown talent as well, because she was an intern that came from one of the universities, and we were so impressed with her. We basically asked her to come back, and she's just like grown in confidence in her role.
You're making her blush.
I am. But that's the best kind of thing, like to see the team grow and spread their wings.
It's so rewarding to see people shine in a way, and you really believe in that person. And sometimes you can believe in people more than they believe in themselves, and they need somebody like you to be able to really push them in that direction. So,
but no, I love my new role. So I'm now more in obviously design and product development, always been. But now we're looking at, new categories, and then there's so many different sides to explore. And then we're going much more, there's more channels every day, not just TikTok, but so many more channels like in China, etc. So there's so many different platforms we need to be working on, and content we need to be creating in different nuances for different countries, markets, cultures. So I'm going on a big trip to China next in a couple of weeks, which I'm so excited about, doing a whole tour there, pop-up events, press. So I feel like I'm also just...
It's like beginning again almost, yeah.
And I'm able to front the brand a bit more, whereas I've always been in the background because I've just been so in the weeds working on the business. And now I'm able to just like literally look outside a bit and, meet the customers. Oh, community. So that's something we've been really working on this year. And again, it's since I've come back from mat leave and I have this new role. So we do all these community events and making it really community first. So, we did pottery classes with them when we did a new ceramics collab. We do Run Club. We did... Oh, there was something really fun. We did the paddle the other day.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. And they're all beautifully like Missoma branded. And,
love it.
It's so fun. We love brainstorming because what we always want to do is think outside the box.
Yes.
We've never been one to kind of follow trends or just do what everyone else is doing. We love to do things that are unexpected. We love to do like a sort of surprise and delight. We love to, and we do a lot of like Easter egg hunts. They're really fun. Treasure hunts always been my favorite thing. And I think now I'm really able to, we're brainstorming all the time. And it's more, what do we focus on? Because there's so many creative ideas.
I was
That's
say,
never
it's
been the
just
problem.
like, that is, you can just see you in your element and you being...
When I talk about that.
You can just see your whole demeanour changes. Like this is... And I really relate to that because that's me. I lose all of the problematic stuff and give me the creative, and that is, you'll have a brief in 30 seconds. Like that is, that's where I kind of shine. And it's so nice that, and listen, they say that that you've built and led a pretty epic company when you can step out of the weeds and it runs incredibly well. And that's the place that you're at. So congratulations to you.
Also, I just love seeing their passion and their drive. And if anything, I'm the one telling them, don't stress, because they're so passionate about it. They want to go over and above. And it's an amazing feeling because I'm not the one pushing them. Yeah. No one else is asking them, to do this,
but that's the culture
that
that you've created. And I think sometimes you don't step out of it to, acknowledge the fact that that's comes from you. It does.
You. Well, I love telling them, I'm like, we're not saving lives, we're decorating lives.
I love that. I love that. That's the tagline. Right, let's do our rocket round now. Now this
Can you imagine how bad I am at this?
No,
I talk
this is
so
quick
much.
fire. Well, this, to be honest, no one's great at this because I get women on and when we're together we can waffle. But let's try and make this quick fire if we can. Right, first question is, what do you believe are the non-negotiables for launching a business?
Know your customer completely. Who they are, where they are, what they want, what they don't want, what they're missing. They are the most important thing. And if you don't know that, you have no business.
Oh, yes. There you go. This is going well.
Customer
Quick fire.
first.
I love it, always. What was there a moment, and when was it, that you first realised that you truly launched?
For me personally, it was seeing someone walking down the street wearing our pieces.
I bet.
Actually, there was one in the street, but the one I really remember was in a queue in a nightclub for the Loo, and the person in front of me was wearing Missoma. Made that queue slightly more interesting.
Yeah, I bet. What's the first thing that you do when you wake up and the last thing you do before you go to bed?
First thing I do is see my son, and as I kind of hold him, I'm making my coffee.
Yeah.
It's all multitasking. Yeah.
And the last thing you do before you go to bed?
Because he's already in bed, right?
Yeah.
It's...
I bet you go in. Are you that parent? I do.
Yeah, go in and check all
Go
the
in.
time.
That's the last thing.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
have a little sniff.
I know.
Just look at them and then like sort of hope I don't wake him up because I'm not ready for the energy yet. But I just like to look and think, oh, I miss him already.
I still put like the cream smell now on me just so I can
Just
smell
so you
it.
can smell it. Oh, it's just the best.
So yeah, I do go in and kind of like have a little stare at him, but try to think I'm really bad. I don't go to sleep very easily. I've got too much energy. So I
Right.
try and read to try and sort of calm me down and escapism. Because
Okay,
otherwise
nice.
you're just always on your phone, on
Yeah.
emails, on social, or reading the
Don't
news,
switch
which
off.
is just too depressing. So I try and read something really lowbrow.
That you can get
and-
lost in a little
yeah.
bit. Yeah, a good bit of escapism before bed. That's what we need. What's one piece of advice that you wish you hadn't listened to?
So many. But I would say spend to grow. There was this phase where everyone was like, you have to spend to grow. And we had been hugely profitable, always had been. And I was really proud of that. And they were like, no, you need to let go of that. And I wish I hadn't listened to that, because now we're all back in the era of you only
Just
spend
profit,
if it's
please.
profitably.
Yeah.
So there were a few years.
You're
that
onto
were-
the right thing there. What's a skill that you'd love to learn?
So many. I would love to be a ceramicist, like work with sculpture. I'd love to really learn photography properly, not just, a point and shoot. And I really want to learn more AI, different
Yes.
channels, because we all need to stay ahead.
We do.
We all need to stay ahead, and it's, it's scary.
We do. We need to keep up. Because we've discussed this on this show before, but there's a lot of worry that we're all going to lose our jobs to AI. And when in reality, what we're saying is that we'll lose our job to someone that knows how to use it.
Exactly.
Because it still needs the human
Totally.
prompt, and it needs
Yeah.
that. And I'm enjoying it now.
And I've been using like an AI software tool from this company that does like spotting counterfeits on marketplaces.
Oh, interesting.
So especially sort of, in China, marketplaces like Amazon, or when they don't realize they've bought in a counterfeit, because it's kind of white label counterfeiting. So that's always been really interesting, because they've been using the AI image recognition. But I think for me, I want to learn it to increase efficiencies within different departments.
Yes, work smarter, not harder. We're all down for that, aren't we?
Yeah.
What's one thing that you wish someone had told you before you started your business?
I think how lonely it was going to be at the beginning. I don't have that problem now, but those first few years,
They're so
I think I
isolating.
would have done it with a partner, as long as they complemented my skill set, or really made sure I had built up a better peer network of other sort of founders and entrepreneurs, or had a really great mentor, but who was a hands-on mentor, having actually been a founder themselves.
Yes.
Because theoretical advice never really
You're so right.
means
You're
anything.
so right. What would be the dream collab for you? We're seeing all this kind of like brand on brand collab.
Well, I mean, we were the first jewelry brand to do a collaboration, for example, with an influencer. So I feel like we've been really blessed with our Lucy Williams 10-year anniversary. And I feel like everything we do is all based on relationships
Yes.
and really authentic storytelling. So Harris Reed was also a dream collab for me. His talent, his, his creativity, his energy. We just bonded, and, he's still a great friend of mine. In fact, I'm going to a show tonight.
Amazing.
And I'm still working with all of them, and we've still got more collections coming out. But I think if I was to think outside of jewelry,
Like something that you that like feels so niche that you're like, God, I would never have put that brand with that brand.
Yeah, I would love to do jeweled elements on homewares. I already have all these designs for the jeweled elements on trays or on top of little, boxes
Yes.
and all these different ideas, candlesticks. And I think Kelly Worsler is one of my dream kind of interiors, kind of goddesses. And if not, it would be someone like just a marketing amazing guru like Jacquemus, bringing jeweled elements to clothing, like amazing jeweled buttons or a kind of shoulder sort of
Oh,
element.
I love that.
Yeah, kind of like
idea.
what I'm wearing today. I love jeweled elements.
Yeah. I love that
everything.
idea. But it's nice because it's all pulled back, and then I can see that. I love that. And lastly, if you could choose one female figure as a mentor, past or present, who would that be?
So I know who that'd be. It would be Emma Greed, who you interviewed first.
I did.
And you know why? I love her no-nonsense attitude. I love her grit. I love her determination. I love her confidence.
Oh,
And
it's
just-
second to none.
And the fact that she also has a family and 4 children and manages to do it all. And I'm sure it's not easy, and I'm sure it's not perfect, and I'm not, saying that it's...
But she owns that, and I think
She
that's
owns
what's
that.
so beautiful about her. She's great.
And
She-
also, I think it's just also a Brit really making it in the US. It is
Yeah.
quite unusual to have got to the point that she has.
I agree.
And through that sheer grit and just knowing the first company that she had, ITB, which was really amazing, just she's a serial entrepreneur. And I think that's the thing. I love serial entrepreneurs. And I would love to do other things myself in the future. So she really inspires me.
Yeah, you're so right. That's a great definition of her. I also think Jo Malone when I think serial entrepreneur too. Like she's now
was the best
she's now
podcast.
releasing vodka. And I'm like, I love you. I just love you. Like it's kind of, it will never stop. And there's always something that kind of...
Surprising. I love people who surprise you. And I love being able to kind of almost do something really out of the box. But I think that podcast episode you did with Jo Malone, I mean, I literally, it was amazing.
She is phenomenal. And I'm like, I've got so much time for her. She's the dream dinner party guest.
Yes. Because she feels calm and considered, but still really kind and open. She was like talking about, curiosity and always wanting to challenge herself. It's so amazing when you hear these other, female founders, because you do recognize so many of the same traits.
Like you say, it's so lonely.
Yeah.
So it is so, and that's like the reason this podcast exists, because I love sitting down talking to
and meeting
women
other,
like you. It's incredible. It's incredible. Each episode, I ask every guest to leave a tip. And it's kind of like a real tangible piece of advice that our listener can take action on, I suppose, after listening to this. So if you was going to speak to somebody that was, I suppose, looking to do something in a similar space to you and are sort of listening on in awe, thinking, goodness me, what an incredible journey, what would one piece of tangible advice be?
It's so hard to put it into one. I think it would be, as I said, know your customer, listen to your gut, because no one will know your vision or the brand that you are going to set up as well as you. And don't be intimidated by other people who sound like they know more than you.
Ooh, that's good.
And then build the team around you that you trust and that you can learn from, and that will bring the different areas of expertise that are not naturally your areas in which you excel, so that you have a really full-rounded team and expert knowledge to lean on.
Yeah, that's
But
very good advice.
at the same time, try and learn all your different channels, at least to a certain degree, because you're only as good as the information you're given. And sometimes people can give you information that isn't the full story. And so you need to know what to question, what to ask, and how to interpret that information and analyze it.
That is such good advice, because that was definitely my weakness. I became quite trusting in other people and assuming that this is covered off and this is right. And it doesn't always look that way. When you're busy and you are kind of across everything, it's easy for things to slip. And then it's happened over a long period of time. And because that's not your strength,
Absolutely.
you're kind of not tuned into it.
But you're not alone. We've all been there,
Yeah, it's good advice, but I wish someone had told me that early on. I really do. And then lastly, I asked this question because I like to end on something a little light. And we talk about ladies who launch, but equally, as much as I love launching, I love lunching. So how do you spend your lunch hour? I know that the hour is kind of less of a thing that exists when you're founding a business. But how do you spend lunch if you were going to take, or you might do, some people are quite strict on having that protected time. Where are you? How does it look on a typical day, and what are you eating?
Embarrassingly, so I have almost the same thing every day. Joe and the Juice, ordered on Deliveroo.
Oh gosh, you're so much more like me than I thought.
The tuna cardo with extra mozzarella. But the worst thing is I have it during a meeting because I don't have a lunch break and I'm back to back.
Fish at everyone.
And yesterday I was actually in a design meeting and I swear to God, a bit of tuna like fell onto the table as I'm like stuffing it in my face. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then I thought, they must all think, they let me because they know how busy I am, but actually this is not very ladylike. And
I feel like everyone on the other side of this wall is like, yep, that sounds like Rochelle. And tuna, it's like the most
Yeah.
unsociable thing, isn't it? To open at like a desk with somebody.
It's just,
it's good.
It's
though.
15 minutes from Deliveroo, so it's what's the quickest.
Yeah.
And I always forget to order, and sometimes I forget to press that confirm button. There's always that extra
Ooh,
step.
yeah.
You're like, where's my lunch? But then the only other thing I will say is that I love Lebanese food, and so on special occasions, we have Lebanese.
What's your favourite Lebanese in London?
I mean, I'm a Marouche girl, but
Oh my gosh, old
there
school.
used to be one that I used to always go to, but it's closed down now. But I went every Sunday with my family and our Lebanese friends.
Right.
But home cooked, I have a lot of Lebanese friends, so...
Well, if ever you're back here, the Lebanese opposite.
Really?
I've not yet been, but apparently it's supposed to be great. So there you go.
No, I must try it.
Next
The
time
other
you're this
day,
way.
during the tube strike, there was only about, 6 people in the office. And so we were like, we're ordering Lebanese. For those who, managed to get in.
Gorgeous.
So
There
we had
you
a nice
go.
big Lebanese.
It's a good day to be in when it's Lebanese Day.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much.
you.
I've loved this. I've loved learning all about you. As I said, I've been such a fan of the brand, and nowadays it really does happen in reverse, but I've been such a big fan of the brand for so many years, and I know you know that because
Yes.
I'm always wearing it, to the point where my stylist was like, you got to change those earrings because it's all you wear.
No, we
And
love
it's so
seeing it.
nice to meet you and hear everything about what makes you tick and your story. So I'm even more of a fan of the brand now.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
It
you
sounds
so
like we're very
much.
similar.
I know. I've loved it. Thanks for taking time to chat to us.
Thank you.
Don't forget to follow us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast to make sure that you don't miss out, because next time we're going to be joined by another incredible lady who launched. If like me you're a watcher, then please follow us on YouTube and don't forget to like and subscribe.